This video is sponsored by Opera GX. Opera is the browser specifically tailored for gamers like us. With features like their own Discord server and more, if you're like me and you've had some crappy low-budget PCs or laptops in the past, GX Control lets you dictate exactly how much CPU and RAM your browser's going to use. Chrome might be a nice browser, except when you want to run literally anything else. If you're like me and you want to have things in the background while you're playing games, such as YouTube videos or a Netflix show, Gaming GX will make sure that whatever you have on in the background doesn't impact your game. GX Corner will keep you updated about new games that are going to be coming out. That way you'll finally be able to know what games you could be playing instead of League, but you're going to go back to League anyway. Opera GX has user integration with Twitch, with a push notification system similar to your phone, along with a sidebar with integrated Instagram, Discord, and Facebook. GX includes a variety of different customizations, special themes, wallpapers, and a forced dark mode. Opera is the only browser that really cares about the aesthetic portion for gamers. I've actually been using Opera for a while without actually knowing. I always use it to stream Netflix and YouTube to my friends on Discord, and it feels like a more niche browser that's more tailored to me. Download today with my link in the description. Kindred is one of the most fun champions in League of Legends. Unlike other marksman junglers, she can actually play like a real marksman. She doesn't have 300 armor like Graves, and she doesn't have to assassinate people like Twitch. She farms, she kites, and she plays with her range. Being one of the few viable marksmen in the jungle, Kindred has always found a niche place in the meta. Yet there is one player who is not satisfied with just playing her as a marksman jungler. He sees potential in Kindred that others do not, and he plays Kindred as a true marksman in the bot lane. Not only does he play Kindred exclusively in the bot lane, he has been able to reach Challenger on one of the most difficult servers in the world, the Korean server. This is how to play like a Challenger.
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 트위치에서 방송을 하고 있고 유튜브에서 유튜브 활동을 하고 있는 아라드라고 하고요. 이제 제 직업은 학생이고 제가 롤을 한 지는 현재 7년째 되고 있고 킨드레드를 시작한 지는 4년째 되고 있습니다. 최대 찍어본 거는 챌린저 아이디 2개 정도 찍어봤고요. 현재 챌린저 1개, 그랜드마스터 아이디 하나 보유하고 있습니다.
So what makes Kindred AD carry so good? Kindred, while being a marksman, has tools that marksmen do not. And so she has a lot of great base abilities that are very strong for early game trading. Her Q and W give her extremely low cooldowns in the early game. It makes her one of the strongest early game traders in the bot lane. While Kindred is still an AD carry, she plays more like a bruiser. Instead of just sitting back, farming, and waiting for your items, she goes in and looks for kills. Similar to Draven, Kindred is constantly looking for kills in the bot lane. Depending on the matchup, you can go for trades as early as level 1 and come out ahead. Aladu's playstyle is completely based around the early game, so he builds exclusively for the early game. Instead of other AD carries who save up to 1300 gold for their first BF sword and back, he will often go 2 or even 3 Doran's Blades in the laning phase to ensure that he absolutely destroys every single matchup.
네, 초반 라인전을 이제 어떻게든 세게 해서 킬을 먹어가지고 4스택 쌓는 게 목적이라 했잖아요. 그것 때문에 이제 3도란검을 가는 이유가 그거죠.
Kindred has no need for boots either in the early game. Not only are boots not damage items, Kindred doesn't actually need the extra movement speed. With the combination of his Q and his W, Kindred gets around 3 dashes per skirmish. Though the Qs are only short hops, the amount of mobility that Kindred has is enough to be able to either catch up or escape from any situation. AD carry Kindred by far works best with supports that are able to set up and chain CC the enemy AD carry so he can proc his E in lane. Engaged champions such as Nautilus, Leona, Pantheon are all excellent synergetic picks in the current metagame. However, there is one support pick that Aladu especially likes when he plays Kindred AD carry, and that is Taric. Aladu often duos with supports that specifically pick Taric for him because their kits just synergize so well with each other. Taric's stun can be somewhat difficult to land, and usually it's the Taric themselves landing it. But since Kindred has W and Q with all this mobility, she is able to more easily land these stuns herself. Although most AD carries would feel incredibly unsafe trying to get into that close of range to be able to land a CC ability, Kindred doesn't have those same fears. She will still have mobility with her W and Q to be able to kite back, And Kindred's range is very short in the early game, so regardless, she will still have to get close in order to harass her opponents. But the early laning synergy is just the frosting on the broken cake. The best synergy that these two have together is their ultimates.
후반에 가서는 킨드 궁 쓰고 탈이 궁 쓰는 거 그걸 믿고 이제 2대3, 2대4 같은 거 있잖아요. 그런 거를 많이 하는 편이에요. 그거는 딱히 추천 안 해드리는 게 진짜로 완전 그 한 판에 완전하게 실수 한 번도 없이 완벽하게 플레이해야 좋은 시너지거든요. 그래서 엄청난 연습 아니면 아예 안 하는 걸 추천드려요.
Kindred's ultimate is designed to make sure that her and her allies don't die. Tarek's ultimate is an ultimate that makes sure that he and his allies don't die. So guess what the hell Aladu and his support are not going to be doing? What often happens against Tarek players in teamfights is that the enemy opponent might CC him and focus him down before he can cast his ultimate. Timing Tarek ultimates is one of the most difficult aspects of playing him. But with Kindred as your AD carry, you don't need to worry about it as much. Kindred's ultimate is instant, so she'll keep him alive throughout any kind of burst or CC that the enemy team has. While Kindred's ultimate is active, Tarek can start channeling his ultimate. Kindred's ultimate lasts 4 seconds. Tarek's ultimate requires 2.5 seconds to cast. So the timings are just about perfect with each other. If the Tarek times it perfectly, it's an entire 6.5 seconds of undieability for your entire team. This makes every team fight practically unlosable. Now, if you can't get Tarek as your support, it is very important that you get some type of aggressive engage support during the lane. You have to treat Kindred like a Draven. Essentially, you have to get kills and you have to snowball. Kindred does scale very well, but she needs marks to be able to do so. Kindred's attack range is only 500, and that ties with the shortest ranged AD carries such as Lucian. But with just 4 marks from her passive, she goes up by 75. Since AD carry Kindred is obviously not going to be getting marks from the jungle camps, she's going to need to get kills in the bot lane in order to improve her range. This is why it's so important to get early game kills and to get your marks. Without her extra range, AD carry Kindred will actually feel weaker than jungle Kindred even if you have more farm. Though this strategy is pretty risky because you're not fighting jungle camps which you're basically guaranteed to kill and get marks, if you're able to snowball and if you're able to get kills, which Aladu does pretty much every single game, you're going to get way more stacks killing enemy bot laners than you ever will killing jungle camps. Now, if you find yourself against an AD carry and a support who just likes to play safe, play passive, and farm up like Ezreal and Yuumi, you're probably not going to get that many stacks and you're probably going to have a harder time killing these champions. What you can do is you can use Kindred and use her priority to go into the enemy jungle camp and try to take marks. Oftentimes, Kindred marks will be spawned on Scuttle Crab, so you can easily take every single Scuttle Crab that appears in the bot lane if you find yourself in such a matchup. One of the biggest factors that make Aladu so strong in the early game is the combination of Hail of Blades and his E. The most common rune that most Kindred players take is Press the Attack. Press the Attack is very strong on Kindred. It synergizes extremely well with Kindred's E and provides a huge amount of burst to her combo. But Hail of Blades is remarkably better on Kindred. In teamfights, Kindred ADC doesn't position the same as she would as a jungler. When you're playing jungle Kindred, you have an AD carry yourself, so you're a little bit more flexible to be able to frontline and to try and go for a squishy assassination. However, when you're the AD carry yourself as Kindred, you are purely front to back. You're still going to be kiting, you're still going to be trying to play from your maximum range, and you do still need to respect everything that can potentially CC or kill you. For your build on Kindred, you always want to start with D-Blade and 1 pot. In your early backs, pick up at least 1 or 2 more D-Blades, depending on how much gold you have, in order to make sure that you dominate the early game. Aladu prefers not to purchase boots because not only do boots not deal damage, Kindred doesn't actually need extra mobility because she has so many dashes with just her Q. Aladu varies his build game to game, but the best mythic for Kindred is either Kraken Slayer or Gale Force depending on the situation. Basically, if you need mobility and you need escapes, you want Gale Force, but But Kraken Slayer is generally the better DPS option with insane damage and burst potential with Kindred. From there, generally you want to go Essence Reaver into Infinity Edge. Essence Reaver is pretty good for Kindred, mainly due to the fact that her Q is constantly up, and so she'll always have Spellblade procs with this ability. Infinity Edge is a great damage item overall, and gives a massive buff to Mounting Dread. After these few core items, if you still haven't won the game by this point, you're going to want to go into some tanky options so you don't get one-shot. GA for AD damage comps, Mercurial Scimitar or Malvmar Mortis for CC and Mage comps, Bloodthirster for damage and sustain. If you feel like you really need boots in order to be able to effectively kite, you can pick up Berserker Greaves as your 4th item. But since Kindred ADC is a completely snowball-based champion, you want to end the game as quickly as possible. For runes, always go Hail of Blades for the kill potential in the early game. From there, you can go Sudden Impact because it synergizes very well with your Q, Eyeball Collection for more damage, and Ultimate Hunter to have more opportunities to use Lamb's Respite. For your secondary tree, you want to go into the Inspiration tree so you can have access to Biscuit Delivery and Approach Velocity. Biscuits helps you a ton in your early game mana problems and provides more sustain overall. Approach Velocity synergizes extremely well with your E, and it gives you a huge burst of movement speed to be able to effectively chase down enemy targets. For your rune stats, always take Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Armor. For your abilities, take Q, W, E, then Max Q, E, then W. All in all, Kindred AD carry is extremely unique. She's a caster AD carry that has a ton of great matchups in the bot lane. If you're the kind of AD carry that is sick of having no prio, sick of having no agency, and sick of just doing nothing but farming in the early game, and you want kills, you want blood, Kindred AD carry is perfect for you.
안녕하세요. 킨드레드 원딜로만 챌린저를 찍은 아라드라고 합니다. 트위치에서 방송을 하고 있고 유튜브에서 크리에이터로 활동하고 있으니까 많은 영상 시청 부탁드립니다. 감사합니다.